This conference will now be recorded.
Hey everybody, it's 2:30 on a Tuesday, so it is time for our Monday through Thursday 2:30 podcast. This is the podcast where you will hear the science about excuse me, about what happened in this opioid crisis. Now, look at the screen in front of you. That gene is what you're looking at right there. You're looking at a gene. We've looked at this picture before. That gene is 450 million years old. That gene developed when vertebrate life with bones, us, creatures that have bones, that gene developed when vertebrate life was still fish in the sea. The fish hadn't crawled out of the sea yet to start life on land. Okay. And that's the gene that encodes for the opioid receptor. This is the gene where all the damage was done to your DNA. Okay. For those of you who took the opioids long enough to develop genetic damage, remember, every dose of the opioid causes a little more damage, a little more damage, a little more damage. For those of you who took the opioids long enough to develop enough genetic damage, it was all in that gene right there. And that's why the symptoms were so severe. The symptoms were so severe because you're dealing with very old DNA. This is DNA that's fundamental to life itself. And that's why the symptoms were so severe. That gene you're looking at right there, the area where the damage was done, is 450 million years old. And it's controlling a molecule, an organic molecule called adrenaline that is 600 million years old. And adrenaline controls the fight or flight response. So the genetic damage that was done to everybody was done to an area of the DNA that is absolutely fundamental to life. That's why 4 million people are dead. You can't muck around with the fundamentals of life. And the research pointing in this direction was crystal clear. Okay, I make this point in the book. There was no doubt what the Dell study meant. There was no doubt. There was no doubt that the opioids were causing abnormalities in the adrenaline system. That was very well known. Dell actually saw it with his own eyes in 1990. And it didn't happen to a few of the rats, it happened to all the rats. Kinebaum saw it in humans in 1998. It didn't happen to a few of the humans, it happened to all the humans. Okay, so it wasn't a possibility that if you took the opioids long enough, you were going to develop an abnormality in your adrenaline, your epinephrine. It was a certainty. It was a certainty. That's what the science was saying, and the science was right. Everybody that took the opioids long enough developed the signature disease, the sickness, when they tried to stop taking the opioids. And they all developed abnormalities in their adrenaline levels. And what the science was saying is, it's not a probability, it's a certainty. And yet the pharmaceutical companies never issued a warning. They have the legal obligation to warn. Yes, they must warn. But they failed to warn. And that's why this is a product liability case. It's a product liability case called failure to warn. And there were really two bodies of scientific evidence that they failed to warn about. Number one was the signature disease, abnormalities in the adrenaline levels. That science was crystal clear. And it happened to everybody who took the opioids long enough. They didn't warn about it. But there was a second body of scientific evidence that clearly showed the methylation, the genetic damage, what you're looking at on the screen right there in front of you. They didn't warn about it. Now it's time for them to pay the price. They must pay the price. Justice must be seen. That's not going to fix the people's lives that were broken. But at this point, it's all that we can do is work towards justice. We don't have the ability currently to fix the genetic damage. So, look at the screen in front of you. The DNA on the screen in front of you, that's what you're looking at. That's how geneticists talk to each other and refer about DNA. That's a gene. That's the OPRM1 gene. That gene is 450 million years old. It is a fundamental to life. It controls the adrenaline levels in your body. When that gene got damaged, your body lost control of the adrenaline levels. A fundamental to life. That's why the symptoms were unbearable. That's why it was so bad. That's why you had to go out and buy something. The psychiatrists, they just got it wrong. They weren't even close. You know, their arrogance is just mind-numbing. But look at that screen in front of you. That's a 450 million year old gene, and it's controlling a 600 million year old substance called adrenaline. I'm looking forward to getting the book out there and letting people really learn about what happened. But we're going to hold here for today. My name is Dr. Doug Smith. Please post this podcast on your social media and everybody else's social media. Don't forget to like and subscribe to us. And we will be back tomorrow at 2.